In studio for a little bit is Mr. John Perkins. He is part of the group Stop Cross Bayou Point. My goodness, let's start here. What a fascinating day. Look, you don't have to comment on that at all if you don't want. It's totally up to you. I mean, we can
talk climate change if you'd like.
We can. No.
What about I-49? Other bad ideas.
There are ways to talk about Cross Bayou and the plan and its current status without getting into Mr. Bradford's comments yesterday. And
People are just on the train, though. They don't know about Mr. Bradford's comments.
If you would want, well, we'll get to that in a second. But if you would want to avoid them, I would certainly understand and say, I'd rather not comment on Mr. Bradford's words.
Let me just say that Councilman Bradford tends to vent when he's on the dais up there, and whatever's on his mind is on his heart comes out. And
is it your sense, since you've already gone there, is it your sense that he was just kind of riffing yesterday, or do you think he went up there with a plan?
I know this. I was in a meeting in Allendale conducted by Mr. Bradford and Craig Lee, and James Fleury was there. This was more than a year ago, and I know this is very near and dear to Councilman Bradford's heart. He spoke with great emotion then, particularly about
Cross Bayou, you mean?
Cross Bayou.
Did he tell all the people in the room then, if they didn't go along with it, that they were racist?
He's held out hope that this would create jobs, especially for the African American builder developer community, which has been left behind for reasons he can explain. But
John, you are.
Excuse me.
You
just
have
a second.
started a group.
Pardon me, just a second. And you made a good point. I apologize, John. In about 45 seconds to a minute, folks that are just turning on the radio, they're just got the phone on to listen to Keel app and whatever. Give us a little background on what we are talking about. The comments made pertaining to Cross Bayou at the city council meeting yesterday.
Willie Bradford at the meeting said the attitude of opponents to Cross Bayou is the same as the attitude he saw during the days of George Dartois, when he stormed into the local church when they were doing a peaceful prayer vigil, and he got very passionate about it and was very, very upset.
Am I overstepping here? What Mr. Willie said yesterday, to paraphrase, if you're against Cross Bayou, you're for keeping the black man down.
In a roundabout way, John, is that what you heard too?
I heard that, but I don't agree with it, and I agree with him that what Dartois did was horrible. And
yes.
If you talk to people, there are people still in Shreveport that lived through that. The cleanup after horses without diapers come running through your sanctuary is horrible. There was blood and horse manure everywhere in that sanctuary, and beatings, and it was horrible. I have no doubt of that.
But to compare this to that?
Well, this is different. This is just a bad idea, and my friend Charles Marone of strongtowns.org says that an idea is just an idea. It's not really, a good idea is a good idea. It's not right or left or black or white or Republican or Democrat. It's just a good idea.
So tell us why this is a bad idea.
This is a bad idea because, and Aaron, I'm going to take you to task a little bit. I was listening. You said you would build the infrastructure for them, but this is why we're in this mess in Shreveport, is we've overbuilt infrastructure to spread as thin as we are. We can't afford to annex, and that's on the agenda today too. I hope people will pay attention. We can't afford to annex another mile of pipe underground. It'll deteriorate over 70 years. Every time they pop, it's $100,000. We had 3 crews out working bursts in lines at $100,000 a pop.
Without getting way off track, what you're saying is we can't afford to keep up what we have. We really don't need to be building more.
No, Councilwoman Fuller is correct. We don't have the capacity to take care of what we have. They're saying $1 billion to fix the pipes. I say it'll be $2 billion. They told us less than $1 billion, and they're going to have to incrementally ease us into that, or we would all move.
So back to Cross Bayou. What is your opposition based on? What's what's John Perkins' top 3 reasons it's a bad idea?
Okay, let's start with, I've read a lot, and I've read a lot about urban planning. It's become really fascinating to me. Start with Shreveport's greatest urban planner, Paul Farmer, who co-authored Urban Planning for Dummies. I can get you a copy of it. This is just a
no, John, we're dumb enough. Thank you.
This is just a bad idea in urban planning. So they clearly didn't have an urban planner helping them planned this,
So
they
what would
threw
John
everything
Perkins
at
do?
the wall.
Riverfront development is beautiful. It does attract people. I mean, we can look at Austin. There are a lot of communities.
Okay, I've got two great ideas real
Okay.
quick. One, I would, of course, clean up the mess down there. That's been one of my goals. But I would put parks. You love soccer. I know you do. Imagine if all of those folks that go to better parks than we have here in Shreveport came into town. They'd stay in the downtown hotels for the tournaments, and they'd have a lovely day on the waterfront playing soccer and go out to restaurants in downtown. It would be an incremental thing we could do, and we could later decide, would we like to put something else there? But I would put youth sports. I think we should focus on youth sports. The second idea is observe what Charles Marone talks about, humbly observe where people are struggling. I've observed that they were struggling in Allendale, and we fixed that. We began to fix it. It's not fixed yet, but we were building 4 houses at a time through Millard Fuller's Fuller Center for Housing. 4 houses, and we got up to 60, and then the business community said, stop. That's where we want to build our highway. But we could still be doing that, and if these guys who are so passionate about the city would think about ways they could maybe incrementally, because if this fails, it'll fail big. I understand they want us to buy the federal building, the old federal building, and hand it over to them. Well, it's empty now.
Asbestos ridden, we might add.
Yeah, so are we supposed to clean that up for them too? So they want us to do a whole lot of things and pay for it with the taxes that would come from that land. And how do we make any
Money,
profit
how
off
does it
of
become profitable?
Yeah,
John
for
Perkins,
anybody.
Mr. John Perkins, his group is called Stop Cross Bayou Point.